Welcome to a new episode of Alternative Perspective. In this episode of Alternative Perspective, we are going to discuss the hijacking of Indian Airlines flight IC814, JeM and demonetization. Well, you must be wondering what could be the relationship between these three seemingly independent or unrelated events. That is, hijacking of Indian Airlines flight IC814, JeM and of course demonetization. Kindly watch this episode till the very end in order to get an alternative perspective. On 24th December 1999, Indian Airlines flight IC814 got hijacked while returning back from Kathmandu, Nepal to India. The plane was hijacked shortly after entering into the Indian airspace. Passengers were mostly tourists from India who went to Nepal for vacationing. Hijackers finally forced the aircraft to land at Kandahar, Afghanistan, which was under Taliban control at that point of time, that is in 1999. However, the aircraft touched down at Amritsar, that is Punjab, India. From there it flew to Lahore, Pakistan, and from there to Dubai before touching down at Kandahar, Afghanistan. But the important point to note is that the hyper-nationalist BJP-led NDA government under the leadership of Atal Bihari Vajpayee didn't find it necessary to initiate a commando operation when the aircraft was stationed at Amritsar, Punjab. The aircraft was stationed at Amritsar, Punjab for about 45 minutes for refueling. Question: why a commando operation was not ordered when the aircraft was stationed at Amritsar, Punjab for 45 minutes? Not only that, RAW, that is Research and Analysis Wing officers under the leadership of then RAW Chief A.S. Dulat were forced to do a cover-up job as to why exactly commando operation was not ordered by the hyper-nationalist BJP government. In the intelligence world, often a secondary cover-up is used to obfuscate the real cover-up or primary cover-up. That is, they would try to cover up something which is not the real thing, and as a result, people would start to think what they were covering up was the real thing. This is how people get distracted. This is what is known as concept of misplaced salience in cognitive engineering or psychology. Former RAW officer R.K. Yadav talks about an inside story in his book Mission RAW. He says that prior to this hijack of IC814, a Kathmandu-based RAW operative U.V. Singh calls up RAW officer Shashi Bhushan Singh Tomar that Pakistani terrorists based out of Kathmandu were planning to hijack an Indian airliner. RAW officer Mr. Tomar rebuked this RAW operative called U.V. Singh and told him not to spread rumor. It turned out that the same RAW officer Shashi Bhushan Singh Tomar was inside IC814 who turned down the RAW operative U.V. Singh's information at the first place. This Shashi Bhushan Singh Tomar was the brother-in-law of N.K. Singh, secretary to then Indian Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee, and he ensured that the plane would be let off and no commando operation would be carried out just to ensure his brother-in-law's safety. Apparently, this was the episode which RAW officers such as A.S. Dulat et al. Were covering up under instruction. Well, they were acting under instruction from the government. An ordinary viewer might think that since RAW officers were covering up this very episode, that it must be the real reason why there was no commando operation. However, enlightened viewers might think this was actually done in order to distract and obfuscate the real truth. Also was an important person called RAW officer Shashi Bhushan Singh Tomar intentionally planted in IC814 so that this could be used as a pretext at a later point of time for not conducting commando operation, citing that this would jeopardize the safety of Mr. Tomar. Question comes. IC814 left Amritsar, reached Lahore, and from there it reached Dubai, where hijackers released 27 passengers plus critically injured Rupin Katyal and Satnam Singh, who were stabbed by the hijackers. Rupin Katyal died. However, Satnam Singh survived. After releasing 27 passengers at Dubai, IC814 took off and landed at Kandahar, Afghanistan. On December 27, 1999, Indian government sent a negotiation team to Kandahar. One of the key members of that team was the current NSA, that is National Security Advisor Ajit Doval. Ajit Doval, the current National Security Advisor, was the main negotiator in that negotiating team. Negotiation resulted in the release of 3 men who were lodged in the Indian jails in exchange of the release of our remaining 160 passengers. These 3 men were Masood Azhar, Ahmed, Omar, Syed, Sheikh and Mushtaq Zargar. In Delhi, then National Security Advisor Brajesh Mishra, Foreign Minister Jaswant Singh were in the favor of releasing these men from the Indian jails, whereas Home Minister L.K. Advani, Farooq Abdullah, that is the Chief Minister of J&K, and then Raw Chief A.S. Dulat were against this move by the Indian government. Vajpayee decided to act with what he thought was rational, that is the release of these 3 men against our 160 citizens. Jaswant Singh accompanied these 3 men to Kandahar to fulfill the negotiation. In the year 2000, Masood Azhar founded Jaish-e-Mohammed, which played its role in Chitti Singhpura massacre, year 2000, Parliament attack, year 2001, Kaluchak massacre, year 2002, Mumbai attack of 2008, of course, alongside Lashkar-e-Taiba, Pathankot attack, and finally Pulwama attack in the year 2019. An enlightened viewer might ask a difficult and uneasy question: was the hijack of IC814 an orchestrated event aimed to free Masood Azhar and 2 other accomplices of Masood Azhar, so that a terror outfit, or a terror asset rather, called Jaish-e-Mohammed can be created, so that this terror asset can be used whenever the emotional blackmailing of the Indian voters become necessary, as in the case of 2019 general election? We need to remember this Pulwama incident in 2019 actually changed the course of 2019 general election, and we see that the current NSA Ajit Doval was actually the one who negotiated the release of Masood Azhar, which culminated in the formation of Jaish-e-Mohammed. The question is Jaish-e-Mohammed a terror asset of the deep state? Careful analysis of BJP's rise and Modi's rise to political stardom raises concerns as a strange pattern emerges. It is said that pattern never tells lies. If we are presented with a sequence of events, and if a common pattern emerges out of these events, probably that pattern has a great deal of significance. One might say that it appears as if, or it seems as if, the principle of Hegelian dialectic is being employed time and again. We are not drawing any conclusion. One might ask whether there exists a strong correlation between these events such as Godhra and Pulwama, and whether these events are orchestrated in order to set a narrative. One might say that a clear pattern emerges from many such events such as Pathankot, Uri, and then finally Pulwama. It seems as if somebody is preparing a ground in order to build a narrative that Modi is a strong nationalist leader, which is his unique selling proposition, or USP, at the cost of many innocent lives and at the cost of our national security. There was another person of interest in the same flight, IC814. His name was Roberto Giori, a Swiss national of Italian origin who owned a company called Gelaro. Gelaro is in currency printing business. It prints currency of almost 140 countries with major infrastructure in Britain. Its former CEO, James Hussey, is a godson of Queen Elizabeth II, who is the Queen of Britain. Following hijack, the Swiss government stepped up diplomatic efforts for the quick release of Mr. Roberto Giori. Swiss Foreign Minister Joseph Dice was in conversation with his Indian counterpart Jaswant Singh. Swiss government also sent a special envoy, Hans Stalder, to Kandahar to facilitate quick release of Roberto Giori. political as well as intelligence community in India believed that a ransom was paid by the Indian government for release of Roberto Giori, the negotiation of which was carried out by the Indian team spearheaded by current National Security Advisor Ajit Doval. In 1997-98 timeframe, then Indian governments under Prime Ministers Inder Kumar Gujral and Atal Bihari Vajpayee printed 1 lakh crore worth of Indian currency notes. This was finally revealed in 2010 when Indian National Congress-led UPA government was in power. An Indian parliamentary committee called Committee on Public Undertakings, that is COPU, was set up. This committee was shocked to find out that the earlier Indian governments had outsourced the printing of rupees 1 lakh crore worth of Indian currency notes to United States of America, UK and Germany, putting the economic sovereignty of India at risk. Obviously, De La Rue was one of the biggest beneficiaries from this business. CBI investigation carried out along India-Nepal border under UPA government, and it unearthed huge cache of counterfeit Indian currency notes. CBI and the parliamentary committee, that is COPU, suspected that the outsourcing of the Indian currency printing could be the real reason behind the surge in counterfeit Indian currency notes. Following recommendation from Indian Parliamentary Committee, UPA government blacklisted and banned De La Rue in 2010-11 timeframe, which was a huge financial setback for this company called De La Rue, and as a result, its then serving CEO, James Hussey, had to quit. The person was basically the godson of Queen Elizabeth II. He had to quit. However, some investigative journalists in India have revealed that same De La Rue was given a contract to print Indian currency notes during demonetization. Naturally, question comes, who lifted this ban? Why and under what circumstances this ban was lifted? When exactly this ban was lifted? And how much of currency notes were actually printed through this De La Rue? These are the questions that viewers might raise. Kindly share this video with your loved ones and subscribe to this channel. Thank you. Thanks for watching.